Safety is going to come to order. We're going to start in subcommittee because it doesn't look like we have a quorum quite yet, but we will take the roll when we have a quorum, if we get one. We're going to start with Senator Black's legislation, Senate Bills 449 and 534. And Senator, you can have at it when you're ready.
Thank you very much, Senator, for letting me go first so I can get back upstairs. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Rusty Black, and I represent Senate District 12. SB449 moves Emergency Medical Dispatch Authority regulations from the Department of Health and Senior Services Bureau of Emergency Medical Services to the Missouri 911 Service Board, which will allow the board to set EMD standards and approve training classes. This justification for this change is because the State 911 Board handles all other 911 dispatcher and training courses, working closely with PSAPs and their personnel on a daily basis, while DHSS does not. This will allow more EMD courses and resources to be made available to Missouri Public Safety answering points across the state. DHSS is okay with this change in the Missouri 911 Service Board along with various 911 associations. However, as you all well know, there are people much smarter.
Questions for the sponsor? Seeing none. Anybody here to testify in favor of Senate Bill 449?
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I may not be the smarter witness, Senator Coe and the State 911 Directors Association. We appreciate the Senator Berkeley Department of Health has had authority under EMD because that was kind of the only entity that existed at the time. And now with the State 911 Board rule authority transferred over, so we can try and move forward with expanding EMD in our state, which is first responders, telecommunicator, get on the phone.
Questions for the witness? Hearing none.
That existed at the time, and now with the State 911 Board rule authority transferred over, so we can try and move forward with expanding EMD in our state, which is first responders, telecommunicator, get on the phone.
Questions for the witness? Hearing none, we're going to go ahead and take the roll. Tell me he's here, so if you can.
Senators Fitzwater,
Great. Here.
Brown, Bean.
Anybody else here testify in favor of Senate Bill 449?
The members of the committee testifying in support: Trent Ford, registered lobby.
You're fine. We have a microphone issue back here. Go ahead. Favor of Senate Bill 449.
Members of the committee testifying in support: Trent Ford, registered lobby.
You're fine. We have a microphone issue back here. Go ahead. Everyone.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Any questions for this witness? Hearing none, thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here to testify? Anybody for informational purposes only? That'll conclude the hearing on Senate Bill. You got another
Scott, you bet. And Scott did my introduction at the beginning. This one is, Scott talked about just over the years. Remember, you get thrown in the back of a truck or in the bucket of a tractor and you get hauled.
You got another
Scott, you bet. And Scott did my introduction at the beginning. This one is, Scott talked about just over the years. Remember, you get thrown in the back of a truck or in a bucket of a tractor and you get hauled to the hospital that can help save people. Sometimes we have morning. I think I'm supposed to say I'm Rusty Black, State Senator again. Mr. 534 as quickly as possible. Currently, all paramedic schools in the nation are accredited by one specific accrediting body, service professionals, which is part of the Commission of Accreditation of and now that they have that job, they can charge whatever they want to. Now we need them more. Based on again, Mr. 534 as quickly as possible. Currently, all paramedic schools in the nation are accredited by one specific accrediting body, service professionals, which is part of the Commission of Accreditation of and now that they have that job, they can charge whatever they want to. Now we need them more. Based on my more than 20 years ago in the emergency medical services community, paramedic schools in the nation in the sake of consistency, similar to nursing schools and medical schools. It is my understanding that the Committee on Accreditation is not respected by the paramedic programs it accredits. If the national decision schools in the nation in the sake of consistency, similar to nursing schools and medical schools. It is my understanding that the Committee on Accreditation is not respected by the paramedic programs it accredits. If the national decision to serve paramedic schools, then this legislation would make sure the state. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but again, have much more quality things to say than myself. So thank you, Senator.
Any questions for the sponsor? Hearing none. Anybody here to testify in support of Senate Bill 534? Proceed when you're ready, and please fill out a witness form.
Got it right here. Good morning. My name is Eric Reeder. I'm a fire chief for Chillicothe Fire Department. Work closely in connection with the Grand River Technical School, which is our training entity locally. 23 of the 24 paramedic EMTs I have go through that Grand River Technical School. I also have 10 years of teaching experience as a paramedic instructor and was actually the instructor when the accreditation process came about. We're not suggesting that we do away with accreditation. We just, through the VOTEC school, we have COE as an accrediting body as well, and we just want to have options available if and when the National Registry decides to give us that option. So that's kind of our position on that. So I am in support of this bill, and I appreciate Senator Black for bringing it forward.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none. Thanks.
Thanks.
Anybody else here to testify in support?
Good morning. My name is Charles Doss. I'm the EMS manager for MU Healthcare. I also oversee the paramedic program for the University of Missouri. I also serve as the education subcommittee chair for the State Advisory Council for EMS, and I'm testifying in favor of this bill. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none. Thank you for your testimony. Further testimony in support of Senate Bill 534.
Good morning, Chairman. Nathan Zapka, Program Director and Paramedic Instructor for Grand River Technical School. Just trying to find some ways that we can also ease some of the restrictions that we have on this, and I think the bill that Senator Black has brought forth is a good bill, so I'm in support of this bill.
Great. Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you. Further testimony in support.
Once again, Mr. Chairman, Trent Ford with the Ambulance District Association of Missouri, here to testify in favor of the bill.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none. Thank you.
Mr.
Chairman, members of the committee, Brent Hemphill, again with the Missouri Ambulance Association. We'll go on record and support a bill. I mean, I don't think this is anything new. The hospitals have a variety of accrediting entities that can have, as well as any other medical professional for all that matter. So we believe this is a great step in allowing timeliness of accreditation to get moving forward with this. Appreciate your support for the bill.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none. Anyone else here to testify in favor of Senate Bill 534? Anybody here to testify in opposition? Any for informational purposes only? That'll conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 534. Yeah.
Thank you.
That'll conclude the hearing on those bills. We'll now go to Senator Mosley. Proceed when you're ready on your bill.
Good morning, Bill. It is currently historical bill. Ouch. And that's all it is to me.
Simple enough. N68. Anybody here to testify? That'll conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 68. Thank you, Senator Mosley. Any So we'll go to Senator Bean next. Senate Bill 211.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, Jason Bean, State Senator from the 25th Boone County Fire Department District. They are one of 28 urban survey disasters.
So we'll go to Senator Bean next. Senate Bill 211.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, Jason Bean, State Senator from the 25th Boone County Fire Department District. They are one of 28 urban survey disaster response, both in-state and out-of-state. When the task force is deployed, the team consists of 80 persons to ensure 3D. In total, 210 people are necessary to properly staff the task force. These persons fill 18 specialists and heavy equipment operators. The task force is trained and equipped following provides a standard for reemployment rights, extended them to Task Force 1 members. Similar rights are well deserved. That be any questions.
Questions for the sponsor? Hearing none. Anybody here to testify?
And the President signed it into Labor Services Employment and Reemployment Rights Act protections for members of Missouri Task Force 1 and sanctioned trainings, exercises, and are activated or deployed to protections and reemployment reemployment protections in sections 4312. But also, unfortunately, RSMO 320.336 only provides for their employment. Under the current statute, if a Missouri Task Force 1 member is terminated for joining or being late or to hopefully get their job back, they are not protected against harassment. Personnel have endured harassment by their employers for joining the task force, attending training, and deploying, denied promotions or other employment benefits because they're a member of Missouri Task Force 1. Retention members of Missouri Task Force 1, so the Missouri is responsible for initiating such actions. 320. The initial employment rights, reemployment rights, retention and employment code, the revised statutes of Missouri, and all amendments thereto. The Attorney General shall enforce. This bill has passed the House. In 2021, in 2021 and 20 such actions. 320. The initial employment rights, reemployment rights, retention and employment code, serve the citizens of the state of Missouri and this nation as members of Missouri Task Force.
Your testimony. Anybody else here to testify in support of Senate Bill 211? Anybody for informational purposes only? That'll conclude the hearing. Senator Bean, any closing remarks?
Nope. Thank you.
Proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Curtis Trent, representing Senate District 20. Senate Bill 221 is the one-plate bill. It would take Missouri from being a 2 license plate state for vehicles to a 1 license plate state for vehicles. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions for the sponsor?
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Brown, go ahead.
I was looking at this summary here, and maybe, but so like, farm vehicles now, like if you have farm tags, they only issue you 1 plate, but you have to put it on the front of your vehicle. And there's probably going to be some people testify this that maybe clarify this, but the reason being is like if you have a trailer hooked up to your truck, law enforcement can't. Obviously, that if you just have 1 plate, it's blocked. So, is there going to be a provision there where that plate has to be? Because like Amber Alerts, things like that, that. I'm one of the concerns of mine is like if that isn't a farm vehicle and they have that plate in the back and they have like a trailer on, whether it be a gooseneck or bumper hitch or whatever.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate that concern. I suppose in the scenario that you're anticipating here, someone commits a crime for which a alert is issued for that license plate. Then they attach a trailer after that to mask their plate.
Or they could be. I mean, and not even. I just brought up Amber Alert. That's one concern. But I mean, if it's something like, if they pull somebody over for speeding, they've got a trailer hooked up and it's not, it's on the back. I mean, obviously the trailer would have a license plate up. That doesn't mean that's their trailer. I mean, it could be somebody that is a pretty bad person.
Certainly, and I suppose that they
setting
could,
that vehicle they can't identify because they can't identify what.
I mean, I suppose they could mask their license plate in other ways, in addition to attaching a trailer. But your point is well taken. If there's a way to address that, I would certainly entertain that. But also, I would point out that other states are. We have numerous other states that are single plate states, and if this is an issue, they seem to have solved it. So perhaps we could look to some of the solutions in other states to see if there's maybe a way to ameliorate that problem.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Further questions for the sponsor? Senator Bean, go ahead.
Yeah, I believe it's 18,000 pounds and higher. It's only one tag right now on farm and beyond load. I'm pretty sure that's correct. And I'd have the same concerns. I mean, I've actually been in Tennessee and been pulled over twice now because I didn't have a tag on the back. So I do. And so anyway, I'm just echoing Senator Brown's concerns as well.
Further questions? Hearing none. Anybody here to testify in support of Senate Bill 221? Please fill out a witness form.
All right. Good morning, Chairman Fitzwater and members of the committee. I'm Zach Wyatt. The Legislative Director for the Department of Revenue. Other states in allowing for our citizens to only have All right. Good morning, Chairman Fitzwater and members of the committee. I'm Zach Wyatt, the Legislative Director for the Department of Revenue. Other states in allowing for our citizens to only have to display one license surrounding Missouri currently are one-plate states. You have Kansas, license plate. The costs associated with producing, managing, and replacing plates would be reduced. Over the past 3 years, the production of these plates. In March of 2020, the price per metric ton of aluminum was around $1,600. At its highest point during the pandemic, we saw it go as high as $3,500 per ton in March of 22. Today, the price is hovering around $2,400 per ton. These drastic shifts in costs have caused a lot of concern for the department. So much so that due to the price increases of all the components around our license plates, the department in FY23 was approved for an NDI of $629,000, and this year the department has an NDI request for FY24 budget of $539,000 to offset these price increases that are happening. The problem doesn't just lie with the cost of aluminum. Earlier this year, a transit delay with our vendor for the vinyl used in plates had the department worried that there would be a potential plate shortage at the end of the year. This has since been rectified, and the vinyl has been delivered, though. The department estimates SB221 would save Missourians an estimate of $1.5 million. With a single license plate, all vehicles would look the same, which would create a sense of unity and uniformity on the roads. This would be especially true since many visitors to our state are coming from one of the 5 neighboring states that currently have one plate. Having one license plate simplifies the licensing process and reduces the administrative burden on the Department of Revenue and our 172 contracted license offices around the state of Missouri. With only one license plate to worry about, there is less chance of confusion or error, and the process of registering and renewing a vehicle becomes simpler and more streamlined, benefiting our customers. Lastly, removing the front plate is something our customers have been wanting for many years. It can improve the appearance of a vehicle, giving it a cleaner and more streamlined look. The motor vehicles today are not like the motor vehicles many of us drove when we were younger, when attaching a front plate to the bumper could have been accomplished by just drilling into the bumper. Now, with all the sensors, cameras, and safety features that are associated with the front bumper, attaching the front plate can only be done by a licensed professional. This cost is then passed usually on to the car owner. Again, I want to reiterate, the department sees SB221 as a cost savings to the state of Missouri and our customers to the amount of about $1.5 million. Thank you, Chairman Fitzwater and committee members, for taking the time to listen to this legislation, and I'm willing to answer any questions.
Questions for the witness? Hearing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Anybody else here to support Senate Bill 221?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Jasmine Wells on behalf of Tesla. This is something that our customers have said that they wanted, and we're just trying to make them happy.
Questions for this witness? Hearing none. Further testimony and support. Opposition to Senate Bill 221. Anybody here to testify in opposition?
Good morning. Mr. Chair, Senators. I'm Dave Marshak with the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. To the two senators from St. Charles, I'll pray for your police officers tonight. I think they're struggling to get by some and require some surgery, so what a tragedy last night. 30 years ago, I didn't have to use glasses. I could see a license plate going past me 40 miles an hour in the opposite direction and know that it was expired. I'm here to testify in opposition of this bill for a couple of different reasons. Number one, it's going to seriously diminish the effectiveness of law enforcement. With law enforcement agencies across the state and this country are short-handed, we use a number of technologies to help us do our job. One of those critical pieces and those critical tools to help law enforcement are the LPRs, the license plate readers. They help us interdict criminals that are coming into our community. They alert law enforcement as to stolen vehicles. St. Charles County's task force has been very successful with license plate readers, and Jefferson County has as well. As we all know, there's a crime situation in the St. Louis region that's leaking over into some of our other communities. These things are used for Amber Alerts, missing person, missing and exploited children, for law enforcement effectiveness when a child is kidnapped for sexual exploitation. Immediate and quick apprehension and interdiction is critical for our success. I will tell you, we use license plate readers and that information that's captured on that to locate missing persons, Alzheimer's patients, mental health subjects. With today's technology, many of the schools, to prevent angry parents and parents that are threatening school administrators, they are using LPR readers. And so I urge you to consider this bill carefully and what it's going to do to not only law enforcement, just public safety throughout our state. I will tell you that some members of our community that have been threatened from subjects who are suffering some mental health issues, we've been successful on some of the LPRs to pre-program information to alert schools, neighborhoods, and law enforcement when a subject who has a mental health issue, who has expressed an interest in violence, have entered into certain geocodes to make sure that our law enforcement officers are aware and also the potential victims are aware. So I'm here to answer any questions, but I assure you that removing the front license plate will have a negative impact on law enforcement's ability to do their job. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Questions for this witness? Hearing none, thank you for your testimony. Further opposition, Senate Bill 221.
Good morning, Mr.
Mr. Chairman, Senators, Tom Dempsey, registered lobbyist for St. Charles County. I see the county is well represented on this committee. Removing one of the license plates would impede law enforcement's ability to protect our citizens and their property. It would inhibit their ability to hold criminals accountable. And for that reason, St. Charles County opposes the legislation. Just as a recent example of the importance of license plates and also LPRs, there was a shooting at a grocery store in St. Peters. There was no camera footage on the parking lot, and it was through the use of LPR technology and the license plates on the vehicle that helped apprehend the suspects. So, happy to answer any questions.
Questions for this witness? Hearing none, thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here to testify in opposition? Please make sure you fill out witness forms.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, Brad Luetkemeyer, Legislative Director for the Missouri State Troopers Association. We'd like to go on record in opposition to this legislation. For my 21 years with the association, this removal of the front license plate has come up. We have always been opposed to this. The front license plate assists our troopers in hit and runs, possible Amber Alert issues. I receive more calls on this issue from just my average trooper across the state than any other public safety issue that comes up. Guys who normally aren't involved in the process call me when they hear this is coming up and are concerned about losing this tool and being effective law enforcement officers. Be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Further opposition to Senate Bill 221?
Good morning, Chairman and Senators. It's good to see you this morning. We're testifying against this bill as well. I can tell you in personal experience, I started my career in Arkansas, where it is a single license plate state, and I can tell you you're taking a tool away from law enforcement here if you do this. As I started the career down there, we have to be set up certainly for just a rear plate, where this gives us options to be able to look both. And the recent shooting in Gasconade County, we were set up, it would have been diminished our ability to be able to catch if they had ran by vehicle. The other thing in my personal experience is that when we've gone up on a motor vehicle accident where it was a hit and run, the front plate is designed to pull off of these with these brackets, and we call that a clue when it's sitting there at the scene, be able to run the license plate and know who that individual was that hit and run when cameras aren't available. I'm willing to take any questions you might have.
Gentlemen, can you give us your name for our records as well?
Sheriff Mike Bonham, Osage County.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Questions for this witness? Hearing none. Further opposition?
Good morning. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Scott Swain representing the Missouri Police Chiefs Association. We too share the sentiment that this is a tool for law enforcement for our officers on the street, and would like to go on record in opposition.
Questions? Seeing none, thank you. Thank you. Further opposition?
Senators. Sheriff Randy Strong, Nottoway County. I served on a federal task force and undercover capability several years ago, and we went into some of these states with one plate issues. It hindered us greatly in working narcotics that were coming into northwest Missouri from those states. Additionally, we are seeing a lot of mental health issues now, and we're getting alerts to watch for individuals that are out moving in their cars, and this again would hinder us in quickly resolving those issues and getting that individual the help that they need.
Great. Thank you for your testimony. Questions? Seeing none. Anybody else here to testify in opposition?
Morning. Sorry. My name is Graham Burnley. I'm a retired law enforcement officer. I spent 42 years in uniform. I retired from the Chesterfield, Missouri Police Department, took a chief's job over in Nevada, Missouri. I concur with everything that these gentlemen have said. They've taken all my thunder my arguments I was hoping to make. I love the comment about the license plate being broken off in a car crash. I've personally picked up multiple license plates after one of those scenes. I do want to point out that I've got experience not only in Missouri law enforcement. I was an Army MP. At that time, I made a case on a truck that I found on the side of the road, and there was no front plate on it, and that state required two. It attracted my attention. I pulled over, and I found a guy on the other side of that truck pop up and say, "I ain't stealing it." And he was stealing. He was taking the wheels off of that. So that fact that plate was not on there attracted my attention and allowed me to make an apprehension. With the military and with local law enforcement, that front plate is absolutely essential in the state of Missouri. I had an officer some years ago that was trying to execute an arrest, and the gentleman that was in the car got out and he was taken into custody. The 16-year-old girl that was with him moved over to the driver's side of the car and charged the officer in that car. Now, luckily, he did get that license plate as it approached him. He didn't get the back plate because he was rolling out of the way to avoid being killed in that situation. We were able to use that information to apprehend that girl and to put her into the juvenile justice system. Gentlemen, it would be a mistake to change the front license plate law in the state of Missouri. Any questions from me?
Any questions? Hearing none, thank you for your testimony. Further opposition to Senate Bill 221? Anybody else? Anybody for informational purposes only?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name's Eric Olson. I'm the superintendent of the Missouri State Highway Patrol, and you've heard a good deal of data and information so far. I have a lot that I could share, but in respect to your time, I would say that I think most everyone understands that in serious crimes in this country, most of them, there's a motor vehicle involved, probably 70% or higher based on data that I see. So a lot goes into identifying motor vehicles after a crime like that. License plate is certainly one part of that. However, I did want to share with you a couple of scenarios that are recent and relevant that the patrol has been involved with directly and that do affect those that we serve, you all and us as well here in the state. One of those scenarios recently was a robbery scenario over in Kansas City. 6 robberies had been, crimes had occurred during January and February, and our officers were able to identify a suspect through other investigative means, went to areas that suspect frequents, and then met the vehicle as we were traveling in an opposite direction and identified it through the use of the front plate, and were then able to successfully apprehend 2 suspects in that particular case. Another more exclusive to central Missouri in January of this year, there were robberies in Columbia, Boonville, Oak Grove, Joplin, and Lamar, in which surveillance footage of the front license plate was captured, which helped us to generate suspect information. A third case, in January of this year, there was surveillance video of a front license plate generated after several people were shot at a funeral home in the Kansas City area. We were able to, through the use of that front license plate, generate investigative leads, which led to the arrest of the suspect. And this is an interstate case that was back in December that involved a kidnapping for ransom out of Texas. And after lengthy investigation with our partners in the Fort Worth and Dallas area, we were able to find that vehicle through identifying it by the front license plate near Cameron, Missouri, successfully apprehend that suspect, which led to about 20 other people who were being held against their will being freed back down in Texas. So those are just a few examples that I wanted to share that were relevant to Missouri and to the patrol and those that we work with, and I thought they might be of interest to you all as you consider the legislation.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions? Senator Bean, sorry. Go ahead.
Colonel, great to have you here today.
Thank you.
Just this is in my mind thinking when you're trying to find a suspect, I'm assuming it's a lot easier when you're going opposite and you're seeing all the oncoming cars versus trying to get behind people and pass. And am I assuming that correct? If you understand what I'm saying.
Whether we're moving or stationary, generally we rely heavily on that front license plate to gather that information. That is correct. Now, one of the others who testified earlier said that earlier in their career they were better at seeing those across interstates and at higher speeds. I can relate to that. I'm in that same boat, but that is the case with the front plates.
Well, and to clarify my earlier comments, I think every vehicle I have, but maybe two, we have one license plate on the front.
Right.
And I was actually kind of impressed. Somebody said it takes a real expert to put one on the front. I guess I kind of appreciate that.
Congratulations. That's
yeah,
good.
I know.
And it is 18,000 pounds. That was
18,000 above.
Yes, sir.
So, Thank you, sir.
No further questions. Thank you, sir, for your testimony. Anybody else here for informational purposes only? That'll conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 221. Any concluding remarks, Senator Trent?
No, I just appreciate the committee's time and consideration.
Glad to do it. We will go to our final bill, Senator Luetkemeyer. He's still around. He's been patient, very patient. Hopefully this isn't held against me as a freshman making such a senior senator wait so long.
Mr. Chairman, members, I guess just Mr. Chairman. No, there we go. Senator Bean's down there too. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, for the record, Tony Luetkemeyer here today to talk about pot. Senate Bill 464 brings the state in compliance with federal and constitutional requirements after the passage of Amendment 3. Last year, it grants the Department of Health and Senior Services the authority to require all individuals who have an employment or ownership affiliation with a recreational marijuana facility to submit fingerprints to the Highway Patrol for a state criminal background check. The requirement in SB 464 is consistent with the background checks already required for medical marijuana facilities, and I would also note that this provision actually previously passed last week as a part of the floor substitute on Senate Bill 40. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the sponsor? Hearing none, anybody here to testify in support of Senate Bill 464?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Senator. Lieutenant Colin Stosberg with the State Patrol. I'd like to thank Senator Luetkemeyer for assisting with this proposal that's in line with the bill or the amendment that was passed by the public to ensure public safety measures. Just here to testify in support of Senate Bill 464 and answer any questions.
Questions for the witness? Thank you for your testimony. Further support?
Hello, my name is Ben Terrell. I'm the Legislative Director for the Department of Health and Senior Services. I want to thank Senator Luetkemeyer for carrying this, and I want to thank the committee for their time. We're the agency who regulates the industry under the amendment that passed to the Constitution. The Constitution gives us an edict to do background checks. This satisfies that and is in line with the previous constitutional requirement for medical marijuana so that all these facilities will be operating under the same standards.
Great. Questions? Seeing none. Thank you. Further testimony and support.
Good morning. Tom Robbins from Moki and Trade, speaking in support of this public safety bill. So twice now, Missourians have passed the most highly regulated marijuana program in the nation, and part of that involves background checks. And in order to satisfy the Cole memo, which says if you follow your state's law, the feds won't interfere, we need to provide FBI explicit statutory authority to be able to do this, similar to what happened on the medical side. So that's the reason for this. We appreciate the opportunity. We thank the Highway Senator Luetkemeyer and also the Highway Patrol for supporting this. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Seeing none, thank you for testifying. Anybody else testify in support? Any opposition? Any for informational purposes? That'll conclude the hearing. Senator Luetkemeyer, any closing remarks for the two of us? Thanks for your bringing your bill to us. That'll conclude the hearing on public safety.